Hello. We've been spending a lot of time in our Great Books class on Goethe, and particularly his poem, uh, Kennst du das Land or Do You Know the Land, otherwise known as Mignon's song from Wilhelm Meister's Jahrlehre. Um, it's I think this poem deserves quite a bit of attention for a number of reasons. Um, One, it's a very modern poem and very innovative in many ways and very unusual. Uh, in terms of the setting and the context of it. Um, in this video, I'm not going to do a literary analysis of the poem, uh, but rather just look at questions to do with interpretations or or the hermeneutics of the poem, as it were, because Goethe sets it up in a very problematic way right from the beginning, because this poem is supposed to have been sung by Mignon, and we are not given Mignon's actual words or music. Um, Rather, we're given Wilhelm's record of the song, which is sung in a language he didn't even understand. Um, so, right from the very beginning, there's the question of whether uh, this song actually exists. That we have a rather vague record of 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 a song being sung in a foreign language, and then a translation of this. I mean, I spend a lot of time looking at world music, particularly songs that I've listened. I spend a lot of time listening to Vietnamese music, and often the songs there, I have no idea about the words they're using. Often the words are very antiquated Vietnamese, and I, my basic level of Vietnamese doesn't allow me to delve into that. And the idea of trying to translate that into English is, yeah, it's just impossible. Um, so we have this problem set up right from the very beginning. It's almost like Goethe is saying this poem doesn't exist, and then goes on to give the poem. Um, so uh, so what what I think uh, Wilhelm via Goethe is trying to do is get at the get at kind of the essence of a poem, uh, even though there's no substance there in terms of we don't have uh, any evidence that really the poem, one, did exist, and two, that the translation is anyway uh, authentic or accurate in terms of representing the supposed song that Mignon actually sung. Um, so there is that problem, and what we are left with, I think, is a kind of a dreamlike sense uh, about the poem, and not only a dreamlike sense about the poem, but I think a dreamlike sense about the nature of reality, and that reality is in some extent a dream. Um, and and I think Goethe is using this device, this idea that this song and this poem and all its beauty um, and all its genius is somehow at its core non-existent, or that the reality of it is so far beyond human rational knowledge. Um, and I think this is quite a profound thing, given the reception of this song in a German tradition. It's being put to words and music and sung, and just the important place this particular poem has had in not only in German but in Western intellectual culture. And I find this obscurity about the poem's very existence at the very core, this kernel of obscurity that Goethe lent to this poem, and then throws out this masterwork, almost yeah. I think that's a crucial point to be noted. And this is only made even more profound when we think about the content of it. That really this is a poem about Persephone being abducted as a child by Pluto and imploring her god Zeus, who's also a father, for help. So in one sense, there's a realism that's highly traumatic and gets to the heart of the nature of evil of humans. At the same time, Goethe has managed to render it into such a beautiful object of art. So this realistic horror concealed within Greek myth, sung, well, that's sort of been overlaid or attributed to a song in a language that the listener did not understand. I think adds really says something profound about the very nature of art, its ability to transform the horrors of reality into something beautiful, and often that the most beautiful forms of art are directly transformations of human life, at its most profound instances of suffering. This sort of attempt to transcend or overcome in various ways. So we see that the first stanza of the poem is Persephone longing for a return to the land that she was violently ripped out of as a child or a youth. So let me just read the first stanza. Oh, have you seen that land where lemons grow, where golden oranges through dark leaves grow, where gentle breezes stir in the blue sky? Myrtle and bay trees stand so still, so high. Oh, do you know it? Do you know? There, beloved, you and I must go. Beloved here conjecturally referring to Pluto, who possibly also abducted her. So there's a lot of complexity, psychological complexity in this. The second stanza, it's quite interesting as well, because it's referring to the house of her father, Zeus. Shining halls, gleaming rooms, pillars straight and tall, and a marble fixed gaze of the statue of Zeus. And this says a lot about Goethe's religiosity also, and his opposition to conventional religiosity and views of God. For Goethe, he's depicting God here as inactive, unwilling or unable to help. So there is a criticism of well, this is reflective of his views of conventional Christianity here as well. So let me read this second stanza. Oh, do you know the house, the shining hall, the gleaming room, the pillars straight and tall, where marble figures gaze at me all day? What have they done to you, poor child? They say. Oh, have you seen them? Do you know? There, my protector, you and I must go. So Pluto's here being referred to as protector, the Pluto that abducted her as a child, and she's envisaging the image of her house with the gods staring down upon her, looking at at what's become of her, but unable to do anything about it. And the final stanza, we return to where Persephone actually is, in the underworld. So let me just read this stanza. And do you know the mountain pass, the road where mules must pick their way through mist and cloud, the caves where dragons breed their ancient race, the torrent crashing down the sheer cliff face? Oh, do you know it? Do you know? There is our land. Oh, Father, let us go. So here the reference to "Oh, Father" to which has been referred to as referring to Zeus, but also possibly Pluto. And in other versions of the classical myth, Persephone marries Zeus as well. So there's layers upon layers of psychological complexity resulting from the actual Greek myth that this is supposed to be referring to. So it's not too clear of, well, it's likely that beloved, protector, and father, beloved and protector at least referred to Zeus, and perhaps fathers, referred to Pluto, and father also referring to Pluto as well. So yeah, there is a lot of complexity going on here. One thing that also strikes me is also a potentially prophetic aspect of this poem. The final in the final stanza, the reference to picking their way on mules through mist and cloud. This almost has something of the retreat of the German army during the Second World War, after their attempted invasion of Russia. That those images, profound images we have of the mighty Wehrmacht retreating on sleds with small Cossack horses, pulling them in, dressed in rags. That kind of there is that kind of there's something here that may be partly prophetic. I'm not. It's just something I'm throwing out there. But in light of history, that those images of the underworld that Goethe is presenting, and in the context of the German Romantic tradition and how that impacted upon German politics, I think there's something to be said of this. If we consider that Hitler's architect Speer advised Hitler to stay in Berlin at the final stages of the Second World War, because it would be a more fitting an artistic ending to the story. We can see that interplay between politics and art, and the way art influences politics in a very deep psychological way. And I think that's a crucial point to make as well, that sometimes it's by studying literature and art that we can get a more profound sense of political realities and political decision making that you often can't get by studying the empirical facts of politics and history themselves. For instance, you can't really get a sense of the Warsaw Rising in 1944 without understanding a thing or two about the Polish Romantic literary tradition as well. So that's a slightly different thought, but I'd leave it on that because it's sort of say something about the importance of literature beyond literary studies. But the main idea that I wanted to make with this poem is that the narratival obscurity that Goethe initially lent to this, the idea that the poem, if it did exist, it existed in some sort of almost a Platonic realm, that Wilhelm somehow had access to, even even though upon hearing the initial song he could not understand it. He somehow construed or intuited um, this content. So this idea of bringing something down out of almost nothing, and it kind of gets, in a sense, the heart of creativity and creative genius. That it's almost like the human mind creates genius out of nothing. Um, so yeah. So with this poem, even before we even start to read it, uh, there is an immense amount of hermeneutic, or interpretive problems that we are translative problems that we are faced with even before reading the poem. Okay, thank you.